Life did not feel kind to him anymore. Each morning started the same way, with the alarm ringing too early and the room feeling too quiet. He would lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to gather the strength to get up. Once, this house had been filled with laughter and noise. Now it felt empty, even when people were around. He moved through his days on habit, not excitement. Work, home, sleep. Repeat. He was not a bitter man. He still believed in goodness, just not for himself. Life had taught him that some dreams come true and some fall apart without warning. He carried those lessons silently. Friends thought he was strong because he rarely complained. They did not see the nights when memories crept in, or the moments when a simple song could make his chest feel tight. Across the city, her life followed a different rhythm, but the feeling was the same. She was always busy, always moving. Her days were filled with responsibility and noise, yet her heart felt strangely alone. She smiled often, laughed easily, and listened when others needed comfort. People admired her strength and kindness. Few realized that she gave so much because she was trying to ignore the quiet ache inside herself. She once believed love would fix everything. She had trusted deeply, loved fully, and dreamed openly. When things ended, they did not end gently. They ended with words left unsaid and promises that never came true. Since then, she had built careful walls around her heart. She told herself she was better off focusing on work and family. Love, she decided, was not something she had time for anymore. Both of them lived their lives doing what was expected. He showed up, paid bills, and kept going. She helped others, met deadlines, and stayed strong. On the surface, everything looked fine. But inside, both felt like something important was missing. Not excitement. Not drama. Just a sense of being truly seen. He often found comfort in routine. The same coffee shop, the same quiet corner, the same seat by the window. It was a small escape from the noise of the world. Sitting there allowed him to breathe. He would watch people pass by, each with their own story, wondering how many of them felt the same hidden loneliness. She, on the other hand, rarely slowed down. Stillness made her think too much. When she was alone, memories came back. So she stayed busy, even when she was tired. Late nights, early mornings, always something to do. She told herself this was strength, but deep down, she knew it was fear. Neither of them believed their lives were about to change. There was no sign, no warning, no dramatic moment. Just ordinary days blending into one another. They did not wake up expecting anything different. And maybe that was why what came next mattered so much. He had learned not to expect happiness. Hope felt dangerous. So he kept his heart guarded, even when kindness appeared. He was polite, respectful, distant, not because he did not care, but because caring too much once had cost him deeply. He believed love was something that belonged to his past. She told herself she was complete on her own, independent, capable. She did not need anyone to save her, and that was true. But wanting companionship did not mean weakness. She knew this, yet admitting it felt like opening an old wound. So she pushed the thought away and focused on getting through each day. Sometimes, late at night, both of them asked the same silent question. Is this all there is? Not out of anger, but quiet wonder. They were grateful for what they had, yet something felt unfinished. Like a story paused in the middle, waiting for the next chapter. He missed the feeling of sharing small moments with someone. Simple things like morning greetings, shared meals, or sitting together without speaking. He missed being understood without having to explain himself. But he convinced himself that those things were no longer meant for him. She missed being vulnerable without fear. She missed trusting someone with her thoughts and feelings. She missed being chosen, not out of need, but out of love. Still, she reminded herself that life was safer this way. Less risk meant less pain. The world around them continued without pause. People fell in love, broke up, moved on. Stories began and ended every day. Their own lives felt like they were standing still, not broken, just waiting. Waiting for something neither of them could name. They did not know each other yet. They had never spoken. Their paths had not crossed. But unknowingly, both were standing at the edge of change. All it would take was one ordinary moment to bring to quiet. Hearts together. The day they first noticed each other was ordinary in every way. He had gone to his usual coffee shop, the one with the quiet corner by the window. It was mid-morning, and the light spilled softly across the tables. He had a book in his hands, but mostly he just watched people pass by. His routine comforted him. She walked in carrying a bag full of paperwork. She was looking for a quick escape from the busy morning, a moment to breathe. She ordered her coffee, not really noticing anyone else in the room. But then she did. Her eyes met his for a brief moment. It was just a glance, nothing more, yet it felt strange, unexpected, unfamiliar. A spark that neither could explain. He returned to his book, pretending to read, though his mind had already started turning over that brief encounter. Something about her calm confidence, the gentle way she carried herself, made him curious. He had not felt this curiosity in years. Not about anyone. He told himself it was nothing, just a passing glance, nothing more. But even as he said it, he knew it was more than that. She found a seat near the window, glancing occasionally at the people walking by outside. Her mind was usually focused on tasks, lists, and schedules, but now she found herself distracted. There was something about that man, sitting quietly, absorbed in his book, that pulled her attention. It was not just the way he looked, but something softer, something human that made her want to notice more. Over the next few days, they kept seeing each other in the same place. Sometimes it was at the coffee shop, sometimes just around the neighborhood. Each encounter was small, fleeting, and yet meaningful. A nod, a polite smile, a shared moment of recognition. No words were spoken, but something was building quietly. Both felt it, though neither admitted it aloud. One morning, he gathered courage he did not know he had. He offered a small greeting when she walked past. "Good morning," he said. It was simple, almost shy, but it carried a weight that surprised him. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes, and replied warmly. The air between them shifted, just slightly enough to notice that day. He realized that he wanted more than small nods and fleeting glances. He wanted to know her, to talk to her, to understand her world. But fear lingered. What if it was too soon? What if she did not feel the same? His mind played tricks on him, reminding him of past pain, past mistakes. Yet the pull was stronger than fear. She too found herself thinking about him. It was unusual, unwelcome even, because she had promised herself not to get involved in anything that could complicate her carefully organized life. But curiosity is hard to ignore. There was kindness in his eyes, a gentleness that was rare, and it made her wonder what he was really like. Beyond the quiet exterior, a week passed, and small interactions became slightly longer. Conversations started with simple topics: the weather, the coffee, the day ahead. At first, they were cautious, each testing the waters. But they discovered that talking to each other felt easy, not forced, not awkward. It was natural, as if they had known each other for longer than just a few days. They laughed softly over small jokes, shared small stories about their routines, and felt an unexpected comfort in each other's presence. With each conversation, they learned pieces of each other's lives. He learned about her love for reading, her quiet moments of reflection, the way she cared deeply for the people around her. She learned about his resilience, the way he faced challenges silently, his subtle kindness, and the small things that brought him joy. Each discovery drew them closer, a quiet magnetism that neither had expected. One afternoon, they lingered longer than usual. He told a small story about something that had happened in his childhood, a memory that made him smile, but also left him feeling vulnerable. She listened with genuine interest, her eyes encouraging him to continue. He noticed the softness in her gaze and realized he could share without fear of judgment. That moment, small as it was, became important. It marked the beginning of trust, the foundation of something more. She, in turn, shared a memory from her past, something she rarely told anyone. Her voice trembled slightly at first, but as he listened without interruption or comment, her tension eased. For the first time in a long time, she felt understood, valued, and safe. The world outside the coffee shop faded, leaving only the two of them. Two souls quietly connecting. Days turned into weeks, and what began as casual meetings became intentional. They would seek each other out, sometimes just to say hello, sometimes to share a brief conversation. Each meeting carried anticipation, a quiet excitement that neither wanted to admit. Their connection grew not through grand gestures, but through small, consistent actions: listening, smiling, remembering small details, being present. The world around them continued in its usual chaos. Other people came and went, obligations piled up, and life's noise persisted. Yet in each other, they found a space untouched by the pressures outside. It was a moment of peace, a safe haven where their hearts could rest, even for just a short while. He noticed little things about her, small gestures that revealed character and depth, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when thinking, the quiet laugh she gave when amused, the way she paused before responding to consider her words carefully. Each observation deepened his interest, creating an invisible thread that tied him to her. She, too, noticed his subtle qualities. How he always offered a polite smile to strangers, how he remembered details from their conversations, how he seemed to find beauty in small things that others overlooked. She realized she was drawn not just to his presence, but to the way he saw the world. A world she often felt disconnected from despite being surrounded by people. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves talking longer than usual. The coffee shop had emptied, and the quiet hum of the machines filled the space. Outside, raindrops tapped against the windows, creating a rhythm that matched the growing heartbeat of their connection. Conversation turned personal, moving from light topics to deeper reflections. They shared fears, hopes, and little dreams, discovering common threads that made their bond feel inevitable. That day, a subtle shift occurred. They began to see each other not just as casual acquaintances, but as someone important, someone worth noticing, someone whose absence would leave a gap in the day. It was not dramatic, not sudden, but steady and undeniable. Both felt it and knew, even if unspoken, that life was beginning to feel different because of the other person. By the end of the week, they had developed a quiet routine. Mornings at the coffee shop, occasional messages to check in, small acts of kindness and attention. The connection was growing, not rushed, not forced, but naturally evolving into something meaningful. They laughed more easily, listened more attentively, and discovered a mutual comfort that neither had expected. Neither wanted to rush, and neither needed to. The beauty of their connection lay in its simplicity. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic confessions, just the quiet magic of being seen, acknowledged, and valued. It was a gentle awakening of hope, a reminder that love often begins in the smallest, most ordinary moments. As the connection between them grew, life outside their small world continued with its usual demands and challenges. Work pressures, family responsibilities, and personal worries crept back into their daily lives, testing the fragile thread that had started to form between them. Each of them faced moments of doubt, wondering whether it was possible to hold on to something meaningful in a world that often felt chaotic and unforgiving. For him, the old fears surfaced quietly at first. He remembered times when trust had been broken, when he had given his heart only to have it returned in pieces. The thought of letting someone new in terrified him, even though he could not deny the pull he felt toward her. Sometimes he found himself retreating, avoiding messages or conversations, just to protect the comfort he had built in solitude. He told himself it was rational, a way to stay safe. Yet the moments spent with her lingered in his mind, soft reminders that maybe it was worth the risk. She, too, felt the tension of conflicting emotions. She had spent years telling herself that independence and control were all she needed to feel secure. Yet the quiet joy she found in his presence challenged that belief. There were nights when she wondered if opening her heart could truly be safe. Could she trust someone again? Was she ready to let someone see the parts of herself she usually kept hidden? These questions circled in her mind, but the answers were not clear. What she did know was that she wanted to see him again, to continue the growing connection they had begun. One evening, they met at the coffee shop later than usual. The room was quieter than normal, and the rain outside created a soft, rhythmic sound against the windows. They spoke about trivial things at first, the weather, small incident at work, but the tension of unspoken worries hung between them. Each glance, each gesture, seemed more meaningful. It was as if the walls they had both built around their hearts were tested silently, asking if they were willing to come down, even just a little. A small misunderstanding arose that day. He misinterpreted something she said, and she sensed a coldness in his response. Both hesitated, unsure how to bridge the unexpected gap. They had been cautious so far, navigating a slow, delicate dance of trust. Now, a minor misstep reminded them that even small connections could be fragile. The silence between them was uncomfortable, filled with thoughts and assumptions. Both wondered if this could undo the progress they had made, if fear and past pain would take over once more. Eventually, one of them spoke carefully, choosing words with thought and intention. The air between them softened, and the tension eased. They discovered that communication was the key, not retreating into old habits of avoidance. The incident, small as it was, became a lesson. It showed them that even when fear and misunderstanding surfaced, they could face it together and grow stronger. Rather than allowing it to separate them, life continued to test their bond in other ways. Work obligations became heavier, family concerns arose unexpectedly, and personal challenges demanded their attention. Each time, they had to decide whether to step back for safety or to step closer, despite uncertainty. Their connection was no longer just a pleasant diversion. It was something worth fighting for, something that required effort, patience, and courage. There were moments when distance seemed necessary. He sometimes disappeared into his routine, burying himself in tasks to avoid feeling vulnerable. She occasionally threw herself into work and responsibilities, telling herself that focus was safer than attachment. Each felt the tension of longing and fear simultaneously. Yet, despite these temporary withdrawals, the bond persisted. Both noticed that absence made their hearts grow fonder, that the connection they had developed could not easily be erased. One afternoon, she stopped by unexpectedly while he was at a small park he often visited to think. The sun was beginning to set, casting long golden shadows across the trees. He had been lost in thought, reflecting on the small joys of their interactions, when she appeared, smiling quietly. The moment was unplanned, spontaneous, and yet it carried significance. They walked together through the park, speaking softly, sharing personal stories that had not yet been revealed. Laughter came easily, and moments of quiet reflection felt comfortable rather than awkward. In that simplicity, they discovered that love did not need to be dramatic or loud. It could exist in quiet companionship, in understanding without words. Despite these moments, challenges persisted. They faced judgments from those around them. Questions about whether their connection was serious, and concerns about timing. Life, in its unpredictable way, continued to present obstacles. Yet each challenge became an opportunity to test the strength of what they were building. They learned that love is not simply about emotion, but about choices choosing to stay present, to communicate, and to nurture the bond even when external circumstances are difficult. During this part of their journey, both began to notice subtle changes within themselves. He found that he was more willing to take emotional risks, to express thoughts and feelings he had previously kept hidden. She discovered that letting someone in did not diminish her strength. Rather, it added depth and warmth to her life. They were learning that love, though sometimes challenging, could be a source of growth and courage. A particularly quiet evening brought a moment of reflection. They sat on a bench near a small fountain, the water flowing gently, creating a serene background to their conversation. They spoke about their fears, past disappointments, and what they hoped for in the future. For the first time, they admitted, in small ways, how important the other had become. There was no grand declaration, no dramatic revelation, just a quiet acknowledgement of significance. It was intimate, honest, and deeply human, as Part 3 unfolds. It becomes clear that love is rarely simple or free of challenges. Even as connection deepens, life tests patience, communication, and courage. Both of them learn that maintaining a relationship requires vulnerability, trust, and deliberate effort. The bond they share is strengthened not only by moments of joy, but also by the trials. uncertainties they face together. This phase of their story is about love, tested by reality. It is about the tension between fear and desire, between past pain and future hope. It is about small misunderstandings, temporary distance, and conscious choices that define whether love endures. Through these experiences, they begin to understand that true connection is not simply about emotion, but about persistence, honesty, and the willingness to be present even when it is difficult. The weeks passed, and their connection, once delicate and uncertain, began to feel stronger. The challenges they faced had not disappeared, but the way they handled them had changed. They had learned that fear could not dictate their actions if they wanted to build something lasting. Every choice they made, every conversation they shared, became a conscious effort to nurture what was growing between them. He realized that holding back no longer served him. The past had left scars, but those scars were not chains. They were reminders of resilience. He began to share more openly, talking about his fears and hopes, letting her into parts of himself he had kept hidden for too long. Each word he spoke was an act of trust, a declaration that he was willing to be vulnerable because he felt safe with her. She, too, discovered the power of opening her heart. She had spent years believing that independence meant emotional distance, that strength required self-reliance. But with him, she saw that letting someone in did not make her weaker. It made her stronger, more alive, and more capable of experiencing joy. She allowed herself to share memories, dreams, and even uncertainties, knowing that they would be met with care rather than judgment. One evening, they found themselves walking together after a long day. The city lights shimmered in the distance, reflecting off wet streets from an earlier rain. Conversation flowed easily, moving from laughter to quiet reflection. They spoke about mistakes made in the past, lessons learned, and the small victories that often went unnoticed. Each revelation brought them closer, solidifying trust and understanding. It was during these walks that they noticed how small acts of care mattered. A hand offered during a slippery moment, a thoughtful message during a busy day, a smile that acknowledged the other's presence. All of these gestures became threads weaving their lives together. They realized that love was not always grand. Sometimes it was quiet, consistent, and deeply personal. They also faced moments that tested their patience and commitment. A misunderstanding at work, a misinterpreted comment, or an unexpected obligation could easily have created distance. Yet, instead of retreating, they learned to communicate openly. Honest conversations, even when difficult, became the foundation for deeper connection. They discovered that facing discomfort together was far more powerful than avoiding it. One rainy afternoon, a small argument arose. It was not dramatic, but it stirred old fears and insecurities. He worried that his words might hurt her, that his vulnerability could be rejected. She feared that opening up too much might lead to disappointment. For a brief moment, tension hung between them like a cloud. Then, they paused and chose to speak with honesty. Words were exchanged calmly, feelings were acknowledged, and misunderstandings were cleared. By the end, both felt closer, realizing that facing challenges together strengthened rather than weakened their bond. Through these experiences, they noticed subtle shifts in themselves. He became more patient and attentive, understanding that love required continuous effort. She became more trusting and open, realizing that vulnerability was not weakness, but courage. Each change reflected the growth that love could inspire when nurtured with care, understanding, and empathy. They began to imagine the future together, not in grand terms, but in small, meaningful ways. Conversations about weekend plans, shared meals, and quiet moments at home became opportunities to visualize a life built on trust and companionship. There were no unrealistic promises, only the acknowledgement that they wanted to continue building this bond. Step by step, day by day, during one quiet evening at the park, they sat on a bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. They spoke about fears that had once held them back, about moments when they doubted their own worth, and about the relief of finding someone who saw them fully. There were no dramatic declarations, only the comfort of knowing that, despite past pain, they had chosen each other. It was a turning point, a quiet understanding that love, when nurtured with care and patience, could be resilient and true. Their friends began to notice a change, though they said little. There was a visible lightness in their steps, a softness in their expressions, a quiet joy that radiated from within. Yet for them, the most important validation came not from outside, but from the trust, care, and understanding they shared. They had learned that love was built in moments often invisible to the world, but deeply felt in the heart. They also learned to embrace imperfection. Life would continue to present obstacles, and neither of them was perfect. Arguments would arise, mistakes would be made, and challenges would test their patience. But they discovered that what mattered most was choosing each other consistently, showing up even when life was messy and forgiving when needed. This choice, repeated daily, became the essence of their love. By the end of this period, they had grown together in ways neither expected. The tentative curiosity that had begun in a coffee shop had blossomed into trust, understanding, and genuine care. Each step they took was intentional, a conscious effort to nurture something real. They had learned that love was not simply about feelings, but about actions, choices, and the courage to face vulnerability together. Time moved forward gently, carrying them into a space where love no longer felt uncertain or fragile. By now, they had experienced enough together to know that what they shared was special. The early sparks had grown into something steady, a connection rooted in trust, understanding, and the quiet joy of shared moments. They spent more time together, learning not just about each other's pasts, but about the small details that made each day meaningful. Morning routines became rituals they looked forward to, a shared coffee, a brief walk, a laugh over something trivial. These ordinary moments held extraordinary significance. They realized that love was not always about grand declarations, but about being present, noticing the small gestures, and offering care consistently. Challenges did not vanish. Life continued to present obstacles, from unexpected work demands to family responsibilities and personal struggles. Yet these challenges no longer threatened their bond. They had built a foundation strong enough to withstand difficulties. Instead of withdrawing, they faced life's hurdles together, supporting and encouraging each other. The act of standing side by side strengthened their love even further. Communication became the pillar of their relationship. When disagreements arose, they spoke with patience and respect, listening to each other without judgment. They learned that understanding one another's perspective was more valuable than being right. Even simple acknowledgments of feelings or small apologies became acts of care, reinforcing their bond. Over time, they discovered that love was less about perfection and more about effort, empathy, and the willingness to grow together. One afternoon, they decided to revisit the park where they had once shared a quiet moment, watching the sunset. The familiarity of the place carried memories of early conversations, laughter, and tentative trust. Sitting on the same bench, they reflected on how far they had come. The air between them was comfortable, filled with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing someone deeply and being known in return. He took a deep breath and spoke honestly about how much she had changed his life. He told her that her presence had brought light into spaces he thought would always be shadowed by past pain. She listened, her eyes reflecting gratitude and affection, realizing that the feeling was mutual. She shared her own thoughts, admitting that he had shown her the courage to open her heart again and that life felt richer with him in it. The words were simple but heartfelt, a mutual acknowledgement of the love that had blossomed between them. They began to envision a future together, not in vague terms but in practical, meaningful ways. Conversations about shared goals, daily routines, and mutual support became a joyful planning of life as a team. They understood that love was not static. It required care, attention, and consistent effort. Each choice to act with kindness and thoughtfulness reinforced their commitment to one another. Small gestures became a language of their own. A hand offered during a crowded street, a note left for the other to find, or a quiet smile in passing conveyed love more powerfully than words. They celebrated ordinary moments, cooking together, walking in the rain, sharing favorite books, realizing that these instances, were the threads that wove the fabric of a shared life. They also embraced imperfections. Mistakes were acknowledged and forgiven, and misunderstandings were opportunities for growth rather than conflict. Both recognized that expecting perfection was unrealistic, and that true love was about accepting each other fully, flaws and all. This understanding created a sense of security and freedom, allowing them to be authentic without fear. Family and friends noticed the change, seeing a sense of completeness in each of them that had not existed before. Yet for the two of them, the most important validation came from within. They felt seen, valued, and understood, which was more profound than any external recognition. Their happiness was built on genuine connection, not on appearances or approval from others. As seasons changed, they continued to find new ways to support and cherish each other. They learned to celebrate victories no matter how small, and to offer comfort during setbacks. They discovered that shared experiences, laughter, and even moments of silence contributed to a bond that was enduring and resilient. The love they had cultivated was steady, a quiet force that provided warmth, reassurance, and a sense of home. The journey was not without moments of fear or hesitation. Occasionally, old insecurities surfaced, reminding them of past hurts or uncertainties. But they faced these moments together, communicating openly and leaning on the trust they had built. Each instance of honesty and reassurance further cemented their bond, proving that love could thrive even in the presence of vulnerability. By now, their connection had evolved into a partnership of equals. Each respected the other's independence while celebrating shared experiences. They supported each other's dreams and ambitions, offering encouragement and guidance without imposing control. In this balance, they found a harmony that made their love sustainable and deeply fulfilling. They often reflected on how unexpectedly it had all begun. A casual glance in a coffee shop had sparked a series of small moments, each building toward the deep connection they now shared. They realized that life's beauty often lies in the ordinary, in the quiet accumulation of gestures, conversations, and shared experiences that create something extraordinary over time. In this final stage, they fully embraced the truth that love is both simple and profound. It requires patience, courage, vulnerability, and consistent effort. It is strengthened not by dramatic acts, but by the ongoing choice to show up for each other, to communicate openly, and to nurture the bond through both joyful and challenging times. As the story concludes, they walk through life side by side, hearts intertwined, facing the future with confidence and hope. Their love, born from quiet curiosity and nurtured through trust, communication, and shared experiences, has become a source of strength, joy, and fulfillment. It is a love that feels like home, steady, and comforting, capable of weathering life's storms while shining brightly in its own gentle, unwavering way. Life had settled into a rhythm that felt comforting yet dynamic. Their mornings began with quiet routines, small rituals that grounded them. But even in the simplicity, they discovered joy. He brewed coffee while she prepared breakfast, sometimes speaking softly about plans for the day, other times sitting in silence, enjoying the shared presence. These ordinary moments had become extraordinary, and they noticed that love often thrived in the small, everyday things rather than grand gestures. As weeks turned into months, their bond deepened further. They faced the usual challenges life offered: unexpected work deadlines, family responsibilities, and personal setbacks, but these did not shake their connection. Instead, each obstacle became an opportunity to grow together. He learned to listen without rushing to offer solutions, understanding that sometimes support simply meant being there. She discovered the strength in vulnerability, realizing that sharing fears or uncertainties did not make her weak. It made her human, and in turn, closer to him. One afternoon, a long walk through the city led them to a quiet park. The leaves rustled gently in the breeze, and a golden light settled over the path. They talked about dreams, not the kind made casually, but the deep ones they had quietly held on to for years. He shared ambitions that he had once thought impossible, and she admitted desires she had pushed aside in favor of practicality. Each revelation brought them closer, building a foundation of mutual understanding and shared aspiration. there were still moments of doubt. Occasionally, old insecurities surfaced, triggered by stress or past experiences. He sometimes worried that he was not enough, that his love could not sustain hers. She occasionally feared that trusting too fully would make her vulnerable to heartbreak again. But they had learned the importance of communication. Honest conversation replaced fear, and reassurances built a safety net that allowed them to confront these feelings together. Rather than alone, their days were filled with both shared and personal growth. He encouraged her to pursue hobbies and passions she had neglected, celebrating each small victory. She supported his quiet ambitions, offering thoughtful advice and cheerleading in subtle, meaningful ways. In these exchanges, they discovered that love was not about possession or control, but about lifting each other up, creating space for the other to thrive while remaining committed to their shared bond. Weekends became opportunities to explore life in ways they had never done alone. They wandered through museums, discovered new cafes, and sometimes simply sat together in parks, watching people and imagining stories about them. In these moments, they appreciated the beauty of connection, not just with each other, but with the world around them. Their shared curiosity and mutual respect allowed them to see life through a lens colored by care, empathy, and joy. Challenges arose that tested their resilience in unexpected ways. A sudden change in work schedules forced them to spend less time together, creating moments of tension and frustration. Rather than letting these moments drive a wedge between them, they leaned on trust and planning, coordinating times to connect and communicate. Even the strain became a reminder that commitment required effort, patience, and flexibility, and that love was not passive, but active and intentional. There were celebrations too, quiet yet significant. Anniversaries were marked with small gestures, a handwritten note, a favorite meal, or simply acknowledging the day together. Birthdays, promotions, and personal milestones were occasions to honor each other's growth and presence. They discovered that shared joy was as important as shared struggle, and that celebrating life together, no matter the scale, reinforced the bond they cherished. Through this period, they also built a sense of home beyond the physical space they shared. Home became a feeling of safety and acceptance, where each could express their true selves without fear. The walls around past pain gradually faded, replaced by laughter, trust, and gentle understanding. In their presence, vulnerability became strength. Ordinary moments became memories to treasure. Even ordinary disagreements were handled differently now. Where once a misunderstanding might have led to withdrawal or frustration, they approached each situation with empathy. They listened carefully, acknowledged feelings, and sought solutions that honored both perspectives. Through these small acts, they learned that love was as much about patience and compromise as it was about passion and connection. As time passed, they reflected on how unexpectedly this journey had begun. A casual glance, small gestures, and quiet conversations had grown into a partnership rooted in trust and care. The realization struck them both that life's most meaningful experiences often unfold slowly. Through patience and attention to the small details, rather than dramatic events, in this stage, their love became a source of strength. They faced life together, confident that challenges could be met, joys could be shared, and each day offered an opportunity to grow closer. It was a love that was steady yet alive, rooted in understanding, patience, and commitment. Capable of weathering storms while shining brightly in the everyday life, had entered a rhythm that was both comfortable and dynamic. But even in comfort, there was growth and change. Over the months and years, their connection matured into something profound. They had faced challenges together, celebrated small victories, and built a partnership grounded in trust, understanding, and shared experiences. Yet, they knew that life would continue to present new hurdles, and their love had to remain flexible, resilient, and attentive to thrive. Mornings became sacred. The routine of making breakfast together, sharing coffee, and discussing plans for the day created a sense of stability. But even in these ordinary moments, they found subtle ways to deepen their connection. He noticed the slight frown that appeared when she was worried, gently asking if she wanted to talk about it. She observed his quiet hesitation at work matters and offered a simple word of encouragement that seemed to ease his tension. These small, mindful gestures became the glue that strengthened their bond. Proving that love is often built in the nuances of daily life, they discovered the importance of supporting each other as individual growth. He had interests and ambitions that were entirely his own, and she encouraged him to pursue them with enthusiasm. Similarly, she had projects and passions she wanted to explore. He became her steadfast supporter, celebrating her successes and helping her navigate obstacles. This mutual respect for individuality within a shared life fostered a sense of equality and partnership. Creating a love that was not possessive but nurturing, there were still moments of doubt and insecurity. Sometimes, old fears resurfaced. He worried about failing her, about not being enough, while she questioned whether trusting completely could lead to disappointment. Yet, instead of allowing these fears to divide them, they chose to confront them together. Honest conversations became a cornerstone of their relationship, reinforcing the idea that love is strengthened when vulnerability is met with understanding and care. They learned to embrace spontaneity as well. Weekend trips, unplanned picnics, and late-night walks added freshness to their lives. These moments reminded them that while routines were comforting, excitement and novelty kept their bond alive. They found joy in exploring the world together, discovering new places, foods, and experiences. Each adventure strengthening their shared history and deepening their emotional connection. As time passed, their love faced external challenges. Friends and family sometimes offered unsolicited advice or skepticism, and work or health issues occasionally caused stress. But these external pressures became opportunities for the couple to reaffirm their commitment. They developed strategies for managing stress together, talking openly about concerns, supporting each other through difficult times, and creating private moments of peace and connection away from the demands of the outside world. A particularly trying period came when an unexpected event disrupted their daily lives. A close family member fell ill, requiring attention, care, and emotional energy. The couple navigated this situation together, balancing empathy, responsibility, and their personal connection. They learned the importance of patience, shared problem-solving, and emotional resilience. Their love proved adaptable, capable of supporting them both through hardship while keeping their own bond intact. During these challenging times, they discovered the power of small acts of kindness. A note left on the pillow, a favorite meal prepared without request, or a warm message during a stressful day communicated love in subtle but profound ways. They realized that consistency and care, rather than grand gestures, was what nurtured a resilient and enduring love. They also became adept at celebrating milestones, both large and small. Birthdays, anniversaries, work achievements, and personal victories were marked with attention and thoughtfulness. They understood that these celebrations were not only about the event itself, but about acknowledging effort, growth, and the shared journey. These moments provided an opportunity to pause, reflect, and express gratitude for the bond they had. Cultivated communication continued to be a central element of their relationship. Over time, they developed a deep understanding of each other's communication styles, preferences, and emotional cues. They could express disagreement without fear of escalating conflict, and they could share joy without hesitation. This level of mutual comprehension allowed them to navigate challenges with empathy and maintain a sense of safety and trust in their relationship. Life brought opportunities for deeper collaboration and planning for the future. Conversations about living arrangements, finances, long-term goals, and family planning became part of their shared dialogue. They approached these discussions with openness, recognizing that aligning values and expectations was essential for sustained harmony. Through these conversations, they've strengthened their partnership and reaffirmed their commitment to facing life together. Emotional intimacy grew as well. They shared not only joys and successes, but also vulnerabilities, insecurities, and fears. These moments of honesty reinforced trust and deepened their emotional bond. They discovered that true intimacy is not limited to physical closeness, but is cultivated through understanding, empathy, and acceptance. They found joy in teaching each other and learning together. He introduced her to hobbies and skills he had cherished, and she shared her own passions with him. This exchange fostered mutual respect and curiosity, reinforcing the idea that love is enriched when both partners continue to grow individually and together. Their shared experiences became a tapestry of memories, each thread adding depth and richness to their life story. Health and well-being became a focus as they aged. They encouraged each other to maintain healthy routines, from exercise to nutrition to mental wellness. They became accountability partners, gently reminding and motivating each other to stay committed to self-care. In this way, they nurtured not only their emotional connection, but also their physical and mental health. Understanding that love thrives when both individuals feel strong and supported, they also faced moments of unexpected joy. A chance encounter with old friends, a spontaneous adventure in nature, or a new shared hobby brought laughter and excitement into their lives. They learned to savor these moments, understanding that joy, even when fleeting, contributes significantly to the richness of a shared life. These experiences reinforce the idea that love is as much about celebrating life together as it is about weathering challenges. Over time, they built a network of shared experiences, creating a sense of community. Friends, neighbors, and extended family became part of their journey, each relationship adding layers of support and connection. They discovered that love is not isolated. It is strengthened when embedded in a network of caring relationships, where mutual respect, kindness, and support extend beyond the couple. They continued to adapt to life's unpredictable nature. When career changes occurred, when health issues arose, when personal challenges threatened to disrupt the balance, they faced each situation together. Their shared resilience, built over years of mutual effort, allowed them to navigate uncertainty with confidence. They learned that love is not passive. It is an active, ongoing commitment to growth, support, and care. They found profound satisfaction in creating routines that were uniquely theirs. Daily rituals, shared hobbies, and collaborative projects became the foundation of a life filled with meaning. They discovered that the magic of love lies not only in extraordinary moments, but in the accumulation of ordinary ones. When attention, care, and presence are consistently offered and received, they also faced moments that tested their patience and emotional maturity. Miscommunications, differing expectations, and occasional disagreements required them to draw on the skills they had developed. Active listening, empathy, compromise, and forgiveness. Each challenge reinforced the importance of patience and understanding, strengthening the foundation of their relationship. As the years passed, they became storytellers of their own journey. They reflected on the early days, the tentative connection, and the gradual unfolding of trust and intimacy. They acknowledged the growth that had occurred individually and as a couple, recognizing that love had transformed not only their relationship, but also their sense of self. Their story was a testament to resilience, patience, and the power of intentional connection. They began to mentor younger couples and friends, sharing insights gained from their journey. Their experiences offered guidance on navigating challenges, maintaining emotional intimacy, and fostering mutual respect. In doing so, they reinforced their own commitment to each other, finding meaning in extending the lessons of their love to others. As they approached later stages of life, they embraced reflection and gratitude. They acknowledged the journey they had taken, the obstacles overcome, and the depth of connection cultivated. They celebrated the ordinary and extraordinary moments alike, understanding that love's richness is measured not solely by grand gestures but by the consistent presence, care, and support shared over time.